Hello, my innocent aspirants. We are done with prelims, and for many of you, it feels like life hit the pause button. After cross checking your answers with various answer keys available, you are now staring at your score and thinking, picture bhi baki to hai, but then how do I rewrite my script? See, I know how it feels to work your lungs out, dreaming of that eligible for mains moment, only to end up in the score below cutoff club. Heartbreaking. But understand this point: failure is not the end, it's more like the interval before the second half. And this is your chance to rise from ashes like a phoenix, I would say. As Dr. Kalam once said, that failure will never overtake me if my determination to succeed is strong enough. So let's turn this setback into our launch pad. Welcome to the first part of our, what should I call it, Phoenix Protocol, maybe. The first part of this two video series, where I would be in the first part analyzing the prelims paper for you, or I'll give you the tools on how you can analyze the prelims paper yourself. So this is what I've planned. In this video, I'll be taking or rather, we will take a deep dive analysis of the prelims paper. And I would want you to think of this as your personal X-ray. Next video would be more like a bulletproof plan, 1 year comeback plan on what you should do in the coming years or in the coming months, right? Not years, of course, hopefully. So that is the idea. But before we understand on how to analyze our paper, how to find out those faults, the very first question that should come in any informed aspirant's mind would be, why should we analyze, right? I mean, to be very frank, your prelim score is just a number on paper. It's kind of like your height and weight. It does not tell you why you got that number. Did you know the concept, or you simply blanked out? Did you rush and misread the question? Did you guess blindly? See, without analysis, you're like a student who writes an exam, gets a 50%, and says, okay, game over for me. Instead, we'll change that attitude to what exactly went wrong. So, think of this analysis as more like your diagnostic tool. Imagine you're a doctor. If you ignore, say, high fever and don't get your blood tests, you might miss malaria, right? Similarly, your prelims paper is a full body scan of your UPSC readiness. If you ignore its signals, you will make the same mistakes over and over again. So, of course, the first reason would be it acts as a diagnostic tool. Second is also building on the foundation, because now we have clarity on what exactly has gone wrong. And see, this exercise is not about feeling guilty, it's about building a rock solid foundation brick by brick. As Gandhiji said, that an ounce of practice is worth more than tons of preaching. So we are about to practice the hardest self honesty, say, drill ever. And very important is the idea of self awareness. Please understand that we need to be self aware. And trust me, you have to get ready to be brutally honest. No blaming the syllabus or maybe UPSC's whims and fancies, some coaching institute, some material, your neighbors, your ex. No, it's you versus you. Once you identify your blind spots, only then can you eliminate those blind spots. So I hope you are now ready to face the mirror. So before we begin, I would need some tools. How do you set up this analysis? Number one, you have to get your materials. What is the or what are the materials required? So first up, you would need to have your GS paper 1 to whatever you want to verify in hand. Okay, maybe the original copy or some online PDF, does not matter. Second thing would be finding any kind of answer key. Now again, don't go crazy that, sir, please can you suggest which is the best, most reliable answer key? Every answer key is pretty reliable, frankly. I mean, maybe there could be some error, 5%, that's okay. That should not be our concern, right? We are not here to evaluate some coaching student's answer key or some faculty's answer key. We are here to improve ourselves. So get any answer key of any coaching institute, it does not matter, right? Then I would also want you to choose a very quiet place. Let's call it your den, because this is time for self introspection. No cricket commentary, no IPL nonsense of who's going to win, what's going to happen. No phone beeps. Find your own meditation cave, because as I said, this is introspection time. And then, of course, grab your supplies. So I would want you to have at least 3 pens, some A4 sheet, maybe 3 pens, possibly a green, red, and a blue pen. I'm sure informed aspirants love using different colors of pens. Here's your chance. Bring some highlighters also. Uh, a notebook, maybe loose A4 sheets. And if you love spreadsheets, maybe fire up your Excel, Google Sheet, whatever. Okay. So this is your setup. All things ready. Now we'll start the analysis. So first stage, what is the very first stage of analysis? Is marking and initial categorization. So in this stage, we would go through every possible question. Okay, don't skip the ones you attempted, got them correct, did not attempt. No, everyone has a ghost in their exam closet, right? So please. So first things first, we have to go through every question. That is your first stage. Now, for every question, there are just 3 categories. Use some symbols to categorize them under 3 categories. Number 1 would be a tick mark. This would be the green category. Use a green pen for a tick mark, maybe. This would be for all those questions you got the correct answer of. Okay. Second category is the cross. You can use the red pen for it. And then this is the wrong category, meaning all those questions you marked incorrect, incorrectly answered. And third, let's make it a 0 or an O, and use a blue or a black pen, no problem. This would be, so this is for the correct ones, this is for the incorrect ones, and this would be for those questions which were not attempted by you, unattempted. So now we have these 3 categories. Okay. Now comes a slightly more introspective and challenging part. So for every question, let's say the green question, green meaning the ones you got correct. There are only 2 possibilities. One would be green, let's say S. This would be those answers, those questions which were sure shot for you. You knew this without thinking, right? You were 100% sure of it. A second category would be, let's mark it as G, that would be a lucky guess for you. You got it right, but it was all guesswork. You just buzzed and bingo. Maybe the stars were aligned perfectly for you. Now comes the second category, that is the red category. Red meaning those questions you got incorrect. Okay. So in incorrect ones, the very first thing would be those questions that you had a conceptual problem with, right? A conceptual gap. Let's put it as CG and mark it as conceptual gap, that there was no concept clarity. I would not say I was blank completely, but then possibly I did not know properly, did not relate properly. Okay. Second would be the more dangerous silly mistakes. Let's mark it as SM. So these are those silly mistakes. Silly mistakes could mean various things. You knew the answer, but maybe misread the question. not correct, incorrect, or you fill the wrong answer in the OMR sheet. And that's an excuse that a lot of aspirants claim later on. It could be true also and genuine also. Just a slight pun here, but please don't take it seriously. Oh, but I'm always true. I'm always sincere. That's not always the case, trust me. But okay, if that has been the case, that is really silly. Why would you mark a wrong answer in the OMR sheet? But if that has happened, we'll have to also look into it. And apart from that, all those silly mistakes that you possibly uh, made in the answer. Then the third would be a wild guess that you knew very well, you have no damn clue about the answer, but still you thought maybe I just had some curd and jaggery in the morning, I will get this right. The horoscope is perfectly aligned. I was told by my astrologer that I will clear the exam somehow, and this is your year. Yes. So this is those wild guesses, right? So it is the wild guess that we need to be wary of in the exam. But yes, mark this also. And the fourth would be the recall. Let's mark it as R, recall. So here we have an issue, or rather we have recall issue, meaning what? I saw this in the class, I knew it, I have been taught, in fact I have revised, but somehow it did not come to mind under pressure. Maybe at that point of time I just missed out on that, I could not recollect. Maybe uh, there's too much of pressure, the previous question was very difficult, and it also led to, or maybe had some spillover effect in this question where I was not able to mark the answer here as well. That's possible, that's possible. So that would be your second category of questions. Now, this is the exercise that you have to do with utmost sincerity, because I mean, if this is where you make an error or you are not self-aware or you lie to yourself, then you might be in deep trouble. Third category would be the, as I said, the unattempted ones, the blue ones, blue, black, whatever pen you have. So in that you have just two. I think the very logical would be either something is unknown, let's mark it as UK. So these are those questions which are unknown to you. You have never heard this term, zero clue, topic has not been covered at all, I don't know what the hell is this, and I had to skip it. Or second would also be something which you are not sure of, right? So how would I put it? Maybe did not dare to know, or so let's put it as DK. So these are questions where you were unsure of the answer, maybe 30-40%, and that is why, to be on the safer side, you did not mark the answer. So unsure, and you played it safe. So I would say did not dare. Okay. So unsure, safe, did not dare, whatever. Now you have to categorize all the questions slowly and steadily under these categories. Okay. Let's take some examples on how a question can be categorized into various categories. Okay. Look at this question. Which one of the following launched the Nature Solutions Finance Hub for Asia and the Pacific? Uh, this is a difficult question. Frankly, to tell you, it's a fairly tough question. It's a current affairs plus an institution type question. UPSC rarely asks about these brand new hubs unless they have made headlines constantly at something like, say, COP28. Now, in this case, of course, answer is immaterial for us. ADB is the answer. Anyway, you would know this by now. But what is more important is to understand it. It's a very highly specific initiative, right? And frankly, it this only made news when ADB debuted this concept at COP28, and also it's not some long-standing program that you need to be aware of. So if it's not a long-standing program, it does not appear in older textbooks or say standard static GK lists, right? And if you look at all these bodies in the options, they're all similar sounding institutions, right? AIIB, NDB, etc. They all operate in that same Asia Pacific global developmental space. And if you haven't watched the COP28 announcements closely, it's very easy to confuse between, say, AIIB or say ADB, etc. Maybe even IBRD. And also the timing is important. It was launched, I think, in December 23. Unless you've been following all the fall, winter 2023 environment finance news, you would have missed it, right? And UPSC, of course, expects you to say track high impact COP events, but not every aspirant reads every COP press release. Now, what would have been done in this question? Either you end up in this zone. What is this? This is your lucky guess. You guessed it and you just got it right. Okay. Second would be you got it wrong with a wild guess. Third would be you left it unknown OUK. So this was your unknown. Done. I mean, knowing this, and if somebody knew this, that's great. All I'm saying is generally this would have been difficult for aspirants to mark. And I would also tell you not to go crazy for such questions, because one or two questions like these you will have to skip, and there is no specific medal, no award, no honor after attempting these kind of questions. You can't go and claim to UPSC, see, I got this answer right, please give me my preferred posting. No, nothing of that sort is happening. You don't get special marks for answering the most challenging questions, right? In fact, some questions are deliberately added to misguide innocent aspirants, that from the next year onwards, this aspirant would go crazy now and start collecting information on all these things, mug up useless information completely. So these questions are meant to target those innocent souls. So please don't fall prey to it. I'll give you one more question. This question came from an area which I also teach, polity and governance. So, okay, I mean, some statements would have been marked correctly. I fully agree. Let's say, for example, Nagaland. Any Nagaland came into existence, so any state would come into existence through a reorganization act, right? So it's a parliament by law concept. So, okay, we mark this as incorrect. Fair enough. But again, come to the third statement. Tripura, initially a Part C state. There was not one or two, but 10 Part C states, multiple Part C states, right? And then it became a centrally administered territory in 1956. So it became a UT and then became a full state. Now, this requires factual information. This is the first time the UPSC has asked this question or this kind of question from this topic. So it's very challenging. It's completely fact based. And look at the first one. I mean, this is difficult to answer even for people who belong to, I'm sure, Arunachal Pradesh, right? The capital is named after a fort, Eta Fort. How many of you would mug up this kind of information? So such questions, yes, of course, mark it as unknown and don't go crazy for it. Not required, right? So these are questions best left, and we would not chase these kind of questions in the coming months and the coming years also in the next preparation. Not required at all. One more question that you can think of, which could be of a different category. Let's say this question. Regarding peacock tarantula, the Guti tarantula, consider the following statements. It's an omnivorous crustacean. It's an omnivorous crustacean. Okay, so I think this is where we have a mistake. It's a tarantula, right? So anyway, let's read the other options. Also, its natural habitat in India is only limited to some forest areas. Okay, and in its natural habitat, it is an arboreal species. Okay, so now here, what I would say when I read this question, even though it might seem moderately challenging, as it is a very specialized topic, but the trick is in statement one. Now think of it. It is an omnivorous crustacean. The idea here itself is that we are referring to this tarantula. See, This is completely wrong. Tarantulas are arachnids, not crabs or shrimp. So this is wrong. This means we eliminate these two. Two has to be correct, which was actually a difficult, challenging part. And knowing that it is restricted to few forest patches, say in Andhra Pradesh, for example, and nowhere else in India, and that it lives up in the trees, not on the ground. These are things that require factual information. So either it requires either your prior reading of the IUCN status or maybe some coaching notes specifically on the arboreal tarantulas. But then also think of it, UPSC's love for this endemism. UPSC often tests endemic to India concepts and facts, especially the ones for the red list species. So this will be a question which most aspirants should mark. If you have gotten it wrong, I would say you either ignored this first part of calling it an omnivorous crustacean. And this is so obviously wrong that I feel that even a non-biology student would eliminate it. So I would categorize it as maybe possibly a silly mistake. So silly mistake. Or I got it wrong as some kind of a recall issue. Right? We have used what for recall, RI or R. Great. So recall issue. So this is how you categorize these questions. And based on what your response was, we'll categorize them. Also, by the way, I wanted to show you because every faculty, every institute, and every senior aspirant, every aspirant who cleared the exam would always tell you PYQs, and go through PYQs properly. So look at this question. The irrigation device called Araghat, or you can call it Ghatta. So Araghat, basically Araghat. Ghat is a pot, right? And Ara means those spokes of a wheel, that's called Ara. Anyway, so this irrigation device called Araghatta was, and all these options. If you think of it, and if you have gone through your PYQs properly, and if I'm not wrong, there was a question back in 2016 from this very topic. And the question talked about how in the economic history of medieval India, the term Araghat refers to what. So it was actually a water wheel used in the irrigation of land, and they have asked a slightly more in-depth meaning of the same word. Again, answer is B, and that is not important. What is important is PYQs. A question asked in 2016, slightly simpler, now expects a more elaborate definition of the same word, PYQs. So in such questions also, I think this would classically be an example of, let's say, a recall issue. That's what I would feel, because this is a very standard topic, right? But again, if you feel that no, this was a topic that I have never heard, I left it because it is an unknown topic, I highly doubt it, that it should not be an unknown topic for you. This would largely be a recall issue for a lot of you. But again, if you feel that no, this was not a recall issue, I got it wrong because maybe it was a silly mistake on my part, I got confused with between B and C, whatever, mark accordingly. This is what you need to do. That is your primary target. All these 100 questions, step by step, one by one, we keep on doing this. Okay. Then comes the second stage. So after we are done with all these 100 questions, second stage is categorizing them based on topics. Again, this is just a very rough idea on what was the weightage of each topic. Again, different institutes will have a different kind of weightage. Some would say polity had 13 questions, some would say 15, some would say 14. That does not matter. 13, 14, 15 is exactly the same. No difference whatsoever. Okay. So you have rough categorization of how many questions from economics, how many questions from history, polity, etc. that came. This is something that you will get from the same answer key that you refer to of any coaching institute. Okay. Now comes the third stage. This is where you build your mistake analysis log, as I would put it. Every question where you made a mistake, right? or also those questions that you got correct but somehow did what? Somehow it was a wild guess. So I write the question number from my answer sheet, the subject, okay, let's say it is polity, and then the topic. For example, say this question: consider the following statement, following subjects under the Constitution of India. List one: extent of executive power of a state, conditions of governor's office, blah blah blah. All that is there. The question says, for a constitutional amendment with respect to which of the above ratification by legislatures of not less than one half of states is required? A question on Article 368. Now my point is, did I get this correct? Great, no problem. Did I get this wrong? This would be a classic example of recall issue, because there would not be a conceptual gap here. It's very simple to understand. Either you know it or you don't know it. And also, I would not say that this is something that is not taught. If you have skipped it, then also it would be categorized as, let's say you have made a mistake here. So this is something which was either unknown to you, which means what? You have made a mistake with respect to lack of revision. Unknown will be of two categories. One unknown would be something that is never been taught. This has been taught, right? Maybe you're too afraid. It could also be one of those unknowns where you did not dare to mark the answer. So in this table, you mention the topic, let's say constitutional amendments. You can write Article 368. Then you mention the status. Let's say you say, sir, I got this incorrect because I thought it was a recall issue. So this problem is of lack of revision or recall. So you did not revise properly. Had you revised properly, you would never have gotten this wrong. So why it happened? Lack of revision. Here we'll mention, let me just erase it for you. So here we'll mention what? This was a error type of recall, and the reason for it was a lack of revision. That is something that you need to know. Did I revise this or did I just took it too lightly, too casually? Action required is what? Of course, we need to revise the topic. Sometimes you'll have errors on conceptual clarity. I have to start from scratch. Maybe if the error is on a conceptual gap, then if the problem is concepts, right, then you have failed on the part of understanding. This would mean that I now need to go to the basics, meaning possibly NCRTs, depending on which subject it is, or maybe your class notes from day one of that topic, etc. So this is that log that you have to build for all the errors that you made. And see, then what we'll do is we'll analyze the patterns. Let's say, are you making a lot of silly mistakes constantly from a topic? Number two, do you have a lot of concept gaps in certain subjects? Let's say for economics, because you had more than 20 questions from economics. So do you find that a lot of those areas where I got the answer wrong was because of conceptual clarity, right? Or maybe you got a lot of answers in history wrong because of lack of revision, recall problem, right? Or maybe you are just blindly guessing, wild guesses in, say, environment and ecology. That's all possible, right? So I will now analyze subject wise also. Now in this you'll have two things that you get very clearly. Number one would be that subject. Which are those subjects where you faltered badly, especially with respect to conceptual clarity and recall? So conceptual clarity requires what? We have to go back to the basics. Recall means what? We have to memorize more, we have to revise more. Silly mistakes mean what? Maybe we don't work well under pressure. So again, we need to revise more on that topic. So now I know what are those subjects where I have made most mistakes. I identify my weak factors. Secondly, wild guesses. So firstly, how many questions did I attempt? You get to know this. Number of questions attempted. Number of questions that you attempted. If they are too low, this means what? This means that maybe you are somebody who got very nervous and played it super safe. Okay. Maybe you thought that okay, some questions are difficult, the paper seems difficult now, you are panicking and the cutoff will go down further. So let's not take a risk. If you attempted too many questions, it is very high, that's also a concern. Now, why is that a concern? Because you are panicking, you are rushing, and you feel that no, some questions are easy. This means the paper is very easy. Most are marking, and when you see people just writing all around you, marking the answers, you feel, oh my goodness, they all know a lot. I wish I had studied properly. I wish I had not watched too many series. I wish I had broken up with my girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever. I wish I had listened to my parents. I wish I had gone to my coaching classes properly. I wish I had taken more mock tests. That's not the time to think about all these things, but still, that's a human mind, right? Anyway, you just over attempt 70, 80, 90 questions. And then you know your mindset also. Second would be your success rate, or I would say your accuracy check. So you also get your accuracy check. And I would request you to also include those guesses that you got correct as a part of mistakes that you have made when it comes to accuracy. See, 70-80% accuracy is great, it's amazing. So we'll try to aim for 80% accuracy, but then when you realize that oh, my accuracy rate is just 40%, that there's something wrong. Either you are panicking, not revising properly, you're attempting too many questions. So in short, we can simply find out what is my area of concern. And once you have identified these aspects, what do you do? What is your correction plan? So for the next 2-3 months, you have to, number one, prioritize your weakness areas. So please don't run away from those subjects that you don't like. This is the time to focus on those subjects. Let's say you hate polity, or you hate history, or you hate economics, whatever. This is a time to study polity. In fact, I'll tell you something very sincerely. Think of this as a blessing that you did not clear the prelims, because what if you were not prepared fully for the main exam? You would have been stuck in this loop. Now would have focused on the main examination, half-heartedly writing answers because your basics are not clear, your optional subject is not prepared properly. You would anyway inevitably fail to clear the main examination. But then by the end of November, December, the results come out, say October, your entire 4-5 months are gone down the drain, and you are still at the same level. The basics not cleared, option not studied properly, and you're back to square one. Again, the same prelims, just barely clearing the prelims, again getting stuck at the main stage, and this happens on and on. So it's a good thing that you actually did not clear the prelims, because you were possibly not well prepared for main exam as well, right? So the first thing would be to focus on those weakness areas. I will study all those subjects which I've been running away from so far. Okay, so that is point number one. And then constantly look at your mistakes log. What kind of mistakes am I making? If it is with respect to silly mistakes, I have to be more calm and make a conscious attempt to devote more time into reading those questions, having more patience, right? So the next 2-3 months, maybe from June to August, rather than arguing on very random platforms like Quora, Reddit, whatever, Telegram groups, and whatever WhatsApp groups, focus on preparing and solidifying your preparation with respect to the weak aspects, right? So, and do this very, very genuinely. This will make sure that you won't falter or repeat the same mistakes again, right? So, this is going to be your correction plan. See, the whole purpose of me explaining this was to help you understand that now you have a more clear cut or crystal clear, I would say, map of where you stumbled and precisely how to fix it. See, this is not some self flagellation, right? It's your launch pad to becoming unstoppable. As Swami Vivekananda said, that arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached, right? So start your analysis today. Don't wait for the next Monday or the perfect time. Grab your question paper, draw your mistake log, and dive in. The next 2-3 months are crucial correction plan, which starts today, right now. No excuses. Once you have crushed this particular analysis, you're done and you've begun your correction plan. In the meantime, I'll have my second video as well, and we'll try to design your entire 1 year UPSC roadmap of sorts, how to integrate optionals, how to integrate ethics now, how to incorporate essays while practicing or while writing while preparing for your GS papers, and also mains answers, how many per day, etc. And that later I'll also help you, say, in your final sprint from, say, January to prelims 2026. Okay, so that is going to be it. And as I say, remember, please, failure is only failure until you decide to rise. So put on your fighter pilot's helmet. Let's make 2026 the year the nation gets the officers it's been waiting for. Jai Hind.